I'm here in Bali, Indonesia, live in person with Tarek Kholoussy,
You got it.
of Nomads Giving Back and Nomads Skillshare. So say hello, Tarek.
Hello.
So first off, this is my first non-virtual interview in over a year. So it's exciting and weird at the same time. So tell us, what exactly is Nomads Giving Back and the soon-to-be launched Nomads Skillshare?
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having me, Peter. I'm a big fan of you and Wise Millennial,
I appreciate that.
and it's great to be at Peter's beautiful home here in incredible Bali. We're very blessed to be here, so thanks for having me.
Of course.
Nomads Giving Back is a dream becoming a reality. So the entire concept is it's a community and a social enterprise where we are all about inspiring the nomad movement and to really connect more with locals and to get back to local communities.
Cool. Um, so there are many reasons why I wanted to interview you, Tarek. You're a very interesting guy, and there are
Thank you.
many different subplots of your life. Okay, which also makes it hard to interview you and focus on one. So on one hand, you're a social entrepreneur focused on impact, right? And you've kind of become the poster child and ambassador of digital nomads, solopreneurs, adventure and freedom seekers, community builders, right, all over the world. And that's one inspiring story. The other story is your journey, right? This kind of 180 degrees from corporate life to real life. You're a really smart guy. Were you born in Egypt, or your parents are Egyptian?
My parents are Egyptian. I was born in the city of brotherly love, Philadelphia.
Right. And then you attended Georgetown,
That's right.
and you have an MBA from Stern, NYU. You worked in the corporate world for companies like Goldman Sachs, Walgreens, New York Presbyterian Hospital, and then had some powerful and serendipitous life moments which made you completely change your life trajectory, right? So you've run over 25 marathons, you've traveled over 100 countries. I mean, that's a very inspiring story, kind of lived the life of your dreams. But the third, lesser known and personally more interesting subplot is your relationship with death and money. Losing your cousin tragically, and being an ambassador of how to save money, earn passive income, and kind of the internal conflict between working a job to help other people get rich versus empowering others with non financial measures of success.
Mhm.
Is that a fair statement? I mean, did I get anything wrong there?
Yeah, it's interesting hearing someone else talk about my life that way. But yeah, you summed up a lot of my journey, my personal journey.
Um, I mean, not to get political, but is there something kind of inherently wrong with the capitalistic society that we've created?
Wow, getting right to it. Okay, I like it. It's an interesting topic. Is there something inherently wrong with capitalism? Well, listen, like I definitely have transformed my viewpoint on the topic. I mean, I was bred and born from the whole going to business school undergraduate, going straight to New York City, working, in the big companies like the big banks and et cetera in New York City. So I was in it, right? And I did the whole MBA. So my conditioning was that it's important to uh, go after the American dream, which is often tied in with making money. And when you surround yourself with a certain group of people that really value certain things, where money is a big measure of success and self worth, I think that it's it's important to understand that there's many different viewpoints out there on this topic. And I'm grateful that I stepped out of that mindset for me. So no judgments on people that are in that. That's their choice. But for me, I feel like there's a lot more to life. We're only here for a certain while than just chasing money.
Sure.
Capitalism itself, I mean, that's a huge topic. My short answer on that is that I'm a big believer in social impact. And so there are ways to make money for companies without necessarily at the cost, at the expense of others and the environment. And I think we know a lot of companies lose sight when they're chasing profits and the quarterly, you know, quarterly announcements on stock prices and things like that. So
Right.
it's very easy to get caught up and chasing more and more and more and more at the expense of others. And so, yeah, I would say that I don't think it's necessarily inherently wrong, but I'm a more believer if you can do it with a conscience.
Sure. I mean, absolutely. There are tons of companies, large and small, that are trying to give back in certain ways, and kind of this. Yeah, I mean, that's a whole other topic of corporate responsibility, ethics, morals. But I do feel like, I mean, there are a few kind of specific questions I want to ask you. I feel like there is a divide in the United States. I feel like either what we were saying, you work in corporate life and have a feeling of stability, or you're a risk taker and entrepreneur, right? It feels like a very binary choice. And depending on what path you choose, people from the other camp are going to have a hard time kind of understanding you. That's been my experience. And so my question is, why is it so difficult for people to be open-minded about non-traditional career paths?
Yeah. So I guess it depends who you're talking to. I feel like we
But
create.
that goes back to the two camp,
Yeah, I mean,
right?
exactly. You create your own
Position.
realities. You create your own realities. So, for example, I actually think that there are people who, when I was more in the Wall Street business world, the corporate world, that a lot of my a lot of people out there probably say, "Oh, I'm a corporate guy," and now I'm much more. I guess I kind of became like a hippie in a way. I got that long hair and
It's a good look.
living in Bali, and um, but there's a lot of my friends here that are much more on that end of the spectrum that still think I'm a very kind of like business ambitious, goal oriented guy. Like I needed to loosen up because I work so hard. But my American friends that I left behind, I still care for them. I still talk to them, but I don't see them. I haven't been in the U.S. in 5 years now, almost. So they probably think of me as some sort of like Zen hippie Buddha guy. So it all depends on perspective. It all depends on perspective. And I think when you're saying why do people like judge each other, I think that a lot of us inherently we want to validate our assumptions. We want to feel that we made the right path, and to do that, that means the other person is doing the wrong path. I think that's common, even if it's not conscious, it's subconscious. One of my close friends, when I told him that I was leaving New York and leaving a good job to take that leap into the unknown, and he judged me and he basically said, "Listen, you shouldn't do that. You're old now. You have to be mature. You have to, you want to have a family, and you need to do this." And it's
Right.
like he was going on that path, and I think I questioned his assumptions. I'll give you an example. My old boss, great guy. He cared a lot about the way he looked. He had like really nice suits, really nice watches. He rotated them. He never wore the same suit in like 2 weeks, at a time. Probably invested tens of thousands of dollars in his appearance.
Right.
I often would like kind of notice that he would observe what other people were wearing and what watches they were wearing. And I never wore a watch. I just never wore one.
Right.
So I think that triggers people because if you're not playing their game of
Right.
what's measuring self-worth and success, then they don't know what to make of you.
Right.
And I
Right.
sort of like pull the ejection seat out of the plane and like just left it all behind, and people just thought I lost my
So let me
mind.
ask you, how do you view yourself? Are you a hippie kind of guy, or a more corporate guy, or somewhere in between? I mean, how do you view yourself?
That's a good question. I'm definitely not corporate anymore. I'll never work for a corporation again. You can quote me on that. If I do, then show this video. No, I mean I don't know what buckets are. All I know is I am me. I'm Tarek. I have this personal journey, this one time of this life on this planet, and I'm gonna do what feels right in any particular phase of my life. And for me right now, it's about making an impact and spreading my personal life lessons that I think that have helped me evolve to who I want to become more like. And if that resonates with others, then I just want to inspire. I just want to try to inspire people because I feel like if I could talk to the younger version of me, if I could coach the younger version of me, I wish I had me now.
Well, hold on. I'm gonna ask you about that later.
Okay.
So, but I mean, on the topic of lessons, so you're obviously very plugged into the digital kind of nomad community. what are some of the top lessons you've learned from your peers in all of your experiences you've had compared to city life?
Yeah, there's a good question. There's a few lessons. One I would say is creating space to step out of whatever you're doing to question your assumptions, because I feel like we're all conditioned. It's like, it's that little story about the old fish was swimming by two young fish and said to the two young fish, "How's the water today?" And the two little fish looked at each other, like, said, "What's he talking about?" Like, if you are in your micro environment, you don't know what you don't know. You don't know that you're in water.
Right.
And so I feel like one of the beautiful things about being a traveler, a backpacker, a vagabond, a nomad for a while is that you can really sort of take a step out of your world to question your assumptions, um, and you don't know what you don't know. So how do you know that unless you change something? You change your environment, because the environment and the routine is what's reinforcing those habits and those conditionings. I also feel like along my journey, what's been critical, and I still try to follow this all the time, is to surround yourself with inspiring people. Like, who do you admire out there that you like the way they live their lives, and seek them out and become more like them by being around them. I mean, I truly believe that energies are contagious. Um, and so it's critical that you surround yourself with those people. So I sought out like retreats and conferences and courses, and mentors of people that are kind of like reflect the aspirational. And you'll know, like, if you're not sure even where to start, I think like, you feel it in your heart. It's the kind of thing that you find yourself searching on YouTube or stalking on social media or reading books about, and then you find out who kind of exhibits those values and those qualities. So question your assumptions, uh, you know, going on a creating the space to really reflect, and then surrounding yourself with the people who inspire you, I think, are three very valuable lessons for me that I think a lot of nomads tend to follow.
I have a side question. Can you finally explain and educate me as to why people don't like being labeled as a digital nomad? I've never understood that.
Yeah. Again, everyone has their own
Especially
opinion.
your company's called Nomads Giving Back.
Yeah. So a lot of people have different opinions on this. There is a number of people out there that don't like the label digital nomad, and I think it's because there is a stereotype of a certain subset that are all about cost arbitrage, where it's more about, you know, finding a place that has a high quality living and a low cost, high quality living and a low cost of living. Yeah, and then then they go somewhere and they don't assimilate with the locals. They don't try to know local people. They're just recreating where they came from for a cheaper cost. And a lot of these people aren't paying taxes locally where they are. They're not even thinking of giving back in some way, even though they're benefiting so much. And so, and they tend to click together and surround themselves with the people where they came from. And so that for a lot of people is off-putting. You know, it's not every one of them. It's
Right.
not probably not even half, but there's a subset. Um, and so I think it's important
What to
to.
you is the definition of a digital nomad? I mean, a true someone who's really embracing that kind of culture.
So okay, well, the definition, like the standard definition, is someone who's location independent, who can work remotely from their laptop, and that was way less common before the pandemic.
Right.
Now it's more like way more common.
What's Tarek's definition?
I mean, I'm more of the inspirational aspect of the nomad. Okay. So the definition of a nomad is someone who has no home, right? But I like to believe, like poetically, that a nomad is someone who believes the entire world is their home. A true global citizen, someone chasing down their dreams, who feels we're all connected, that borders are irrelevant, we're all equal, we're all one, and I think that's what I truly believe, and the type of people that are in my life are people where the values of Nomads Giving Back resonates. So all day I'm connected to impact leaders that I'm trying to help support. My amazing team. We have 45 volunteers around the world and another 45 ambassadors that this message resonated with me. So, I mean, going back to your previous question, another lesson I learned is, it's not only about finding your tribe, it's actually creating it. You can create it by going, like, representing your values, and then see the message resonates with the people that are attracted to that.
I mean, for the first time in my life, I've now lived overseas for the last 6 months, and I can tell you it's hard to find community and structure. I don't know if it's just kind of that nomads are maybe too independent to a fault, or if it just takes an extra layer of discipline to stay focused while living a remote lifestyle. I'm curious of the challenges you have faced, if any, in staying structured, and any tips you may have.
Yeah. So I'll challenge a little bit of the question itself, that not staying structured isn't always the goal for me. And I think it's about, what are you looking to achieve at what phase in your life? There was a phase where I was looking for anything but structure. I was like a plastic bag in the wind, backpacking around the world and just seeing where um, the universe took me, right? And I think that phase for me was really helpful for my personal growth. These days, structure is important because I'm really trying to create something that takes a lot of effort, and I'm constantly looking to how to become more productive. But what I love now is I'm also on the creative side, because I'm creating something. In my old jobs, when I was working for large companies, it was always productivity, efficiency,
Right.
which, you know, I I guess everyone's different, but for me, I wanted to see what difference can I make in the world, like Tarek, and I wanted to kind of like create something. And so, but structure is important in terms of productivity. So, what tips?
First of all, let
Especially,
me just say, I mean, it's cool though that I think that's interesting how it's okay to. I think we're so programmed that you have to be structured all the time in society. Like this is like, if you're not structured, then like stay away from this person. They're volatile. They're dangerous. You don't know what they're gonna do next, right? Maybe that's like the allure for some people. So I think it's cool that you can give yourself permission to say, you know what, actually, this period of my life, I'm not looking for structure. I don't want to be structured. And yeah, you may get some pushback from your friends, family, whatever. But then to your point, you find new friends, you make new people who do fit that,
hmm
kind of stage. I mean, for me, I know that I always put so much pressure on myself in terms of structure and staying focused and being productive. And it's something I take a lot of pride in. But yeah, to your point, I guess it really depends on what stage of life you're at, what you're looking for. So I think that's really cool that you mentioned that. But
yeah, finding the balance for what feels right to you as well, because you know, um, being an entrepreneur is challenging. Where I sometimes don't follow my own advice about like balance, work life balance, right? Um, but no, absolutely, I totally agree with you, and I think one of the things that I've noticed in the movement, and definitely for myself, is moving around. A nomad is someone who moves around, right? That's at least within some frequency, whether it's 1 month, 3 months, 6 months. But there's a growing trend now of the slow mad, someone who's like spending quite a bit of time in one place,
well,
almost like,
certainly with COVID, that's
especially with
we're
COVID,
all slow mads now.
especially with COVID, right? And I found that for myself and for a lot of people, they're being more effective in actually building out what they're trying to build for themselves, because there's a lot of transactional costs in moving around, and not just financial. It's time, it's energy, it's decision making. I mean, how much capacity it takes to figure out where you're going to go next, which flight's the best, which hotel you're going to stay in, and then
But
when
to
you,
your point, a lot of people just go on a whim. They don't even. I mean, that's assuming that planning is. I mean, yeah, obviously you need somewhere to sleep at night, right? But I don't know. I've been very impressed with the people I've met in Bali even the last 5 months who really, I mean, pre-COVID, just were like, yeah, just like, or even during COVID, they'll go here, or they'll, yeah, I'm just saying, I'll see how I wake up and how I feel today and make a decision. I mean, I'm like, I can't live life like that. Just make a decision on based on how I feel when I wake up. I
I've, I've,
mean,
I've,
I give a lot of credit. I'm like, it's just interesting to me.
it's I've had that phase and I actually love it, but I don't know how to do that and run a business at the same time, because it's hard, because there's
Yeah,
only so much time.
I don't know if
But
that's
I've
compatible.
gone to airports without knowing where I was going. I would literally buy the ticket at the airport.
Yeah.
And it's a very exhilarating feeling to be that free. But lately, I've been anything but a nomad. I haven't left Bali or Indonesia for more than a year now. And I think that's the longest time I stayed in one country since I was a child.
Well, it's interesting because I mean, I feel like as tragic as COVID has been for so many, it has given your organization a shot in the arm, no pun intended, uh, because post COVID, so many people are now virtual, and I'm curious of your thoughts on what the world looks like on the other side of this pandemic. I mean, isn't now the strongest case you can make for converting people to nomadic life?
Yeah. Well, the shot in the arm hasn't happened yet.
True.
So,
But over the next, month
yeah.
or so, or several months, it's going to be happening.
I mean, so up until the pandemic, we were about a year and a half old, and we were all about bringing people together, right? How do you serve as a bridge between foreigners and locals if you're not bringing people together? How do you inspire people? And so we had about 60 events at that time, all impact related. And so when the pandemic hit, bam, no events. Yeah, we started doing some things online, but doesn't have the same magic. Doesn't have the same turnout. Doesn't have the same impact. And so no, and plus a lot of our partners were co-working hubs, were these conferences, um, were impact nonprofits that we all got hit. And so, but you're right in terms of I think the nomad movement is going to grow exponentially. I mean, not even like double or triple. I'm talking about 10x, 50x in a few years, because like you said, like most of the world now, in terms of the kind of people that would become a nomad or expat, are working remotely.
Right.
A lot of offices are saying, "Don't come back to the office." So
why pay for all the square footage?
yeah, why pay New York rent
Yeah,
when you can have something as beautiful as this for a fraction of the price?
it's true.
Right? I mean, this is probably cheaper than a studio in Manhattan, and it's like
Maybe one bedroom, but yeah, still.
Yeah. So I do think that in about 5 or 10 years, people are going to look back and say, "Wait, there were nomads before the pandemic? I thought this was a new thing. I thought that's what caused it." So I think, yeah, it's interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how it evolves. And honestly, nomads and expats and people living abroad, they have a big impact on the local environment wherever they are. But there's positive impact and there's unintended consequences that are also negative. And I think a lot of them are going to be higher income than in the past on average, because there's going to be like legit 6-figure people that normally can only make that income if they went to an office with all the decision makers.
True. I'm interested to see, do you pay people less because they're not in the city or they're not in office? What's the price disparity between people who are remote? What's the discount on that? I'm kind of curious to see. Uh, I'm curious, what's your vision for Nomads Giving Back? I mean, obviously empowering local communities is your main focus, but is it to have a huge online community to leverage for corporate sponsors? I mean, do you want to have like a licensing model and have independently operating communities all over the world? I mean, 10 years from now, what does success look like for you?
Sure. Great question. So the vision is to really inspire and empower nomads and expats and just global citizens, anyone, to be able to give back and help solve the question, I want to give back and I don't know how. And that's the only way to do that effectively, in my view, is to build meaningful relationships with the local impact causes in these places. So we've been focusing on the two main hubs where I've been basically living for the last few years, which is Bali and Medellin, Colombia. And so the vision would be we're targeting the nomad movement, but really it's global citizens. It's anyone, anywhere. Virtually, we can help causes around the world. And we've had events in like 10 different countries, but most of them were in these two hubs. So,
But don't you need kind of boots on the ground, Tarek? I mean, if you're going to be building kind of, fostering that relationship between the locals and the
100%. So
expat?
we've had we have community leaders in Bali and Medellin, but I'm a startup. We're a pretty young organization. We're just 2 years old.
Yeah.
So it's going to take time to build to this whole global macro thing that it could evolve to. It doesn't have to, but it'd be nice. It'd be nice. It'd be fun to have a bigger impact. Um, so to answer your question about the virtual versus live, like I'm much more excited about the in-person activities. That's where the
I
magic
think we all
happens.
are
Yeah.
after COVID.
So, but right now we've been focusing a lot on building an online presence more because of the restrictions we had, and we're going to have an online community with lots of virtual sessions and classes. We already have them, but we're going to have more. And the future is more, not more, but additionally focusing on skill sharing.
Yeah, so tell me about that. Tell me about your vision for Nomads Skillshare.
So, so many people have these skills, and we're turning into this more virtual nomadic life, right? And a lot of my friends have these skills that they're looking to share and help people grow and learn. And so there's a lack of organization as a whole among the movement. We're a collection of individuals. We're not like part of a big company. And so the way I see things is that from the impact side, what's the difference between when you and I go to these amazing nice coffee shops around and we do work for a while? What's the difference between the person serving you, like Made or whoever it might be,
Right.
coffee, and you? What's the difference between someone who just took a course on social media for a few months and is now making 20, 30, $40 an hour, and the person serving them that's making $1 an hour, $2 an hour, if that? And really, it's skills. And I think the two major barriers of skills in these tourist destinations like Bali are language. Like if you don't speak English, your income level and your economic opportunity is limited at a very low level.
You mean for the locals?
For the locals.
Yeah.
And for once you can enter the tourism economy, your income can go up 5-10 times.
Yeah.
And then what's stopping you from actually making what the foreigners are making? It's digital skills usually, or some level of business entrepreneurial skills. And so what I was looking to do with Nomads Skillshare is turn Nomads Giving Back into a true social enterprise that's revenue generating, that can support itself, support the impact, but also serve our mission in helping our community of often expats and nomads, but especially also local communities through skill sharing. And so we're going to have 4 tracks, 4 themes: mind, body, soul, and heart. So the mind is going to be helping empower people to share their skills so people can learn professional skills.
Give me an example of a skill that maybe I would find on that platform.
Sure. So someone like you specifically, and our friends that are often in the space, I think the first one we're going to partner with our friend is on course creation. So a lot of people have the skill and they want to create an online course,
right,
whether it's live sessions or recorded sessions, but that seems to be a really in-demand one.
Yeah.
A very common one is just digital marketing. I mean, social media is a machine. A lot of freelancers and solopreneurs are relying on social media to cultivate their community, and to promote their business offering.
Right.
And what's really cool is that so many of these people.
But can the universe of social media sustain? I mean, so many. I mean, is it too competitive? Is it too fragmented? Can it support all these people fighting for this one pot?
Well, I think it's a medium, right? So how are people being influenced to make their purchasing decisions, right? And really, you just need to follow the trends. So a lot of people are spending less time on TV. Like I don't think I've watched a TV in the longest time. My version of TV is maybe watching a little YouTube.
True, yeah, or cord cutting,
right? But a lot of people are scrolling. I mean, hell, things are changing so fast. In the last month, I spent a lot of time on a platform that I didn't even exist, that I didn't know existed a month ago. Clubhouse.
Yeah, I know it's your new favorite.
It's my new favorite. I mean, by the time this gets released and someone watches it, who knows if it still will be. But I see a lot of potential.
Yeah,
I see a lot of potential. But isn't that interesting though? It didn't, in my world, it didn't even exist 1 month ago.
Yeah.
And now I'm spending time on it. So what's going to change in 6 months, in 2 years, in 10 years? The main point is, where are people getting their information, their inspiration? And I think social media, I mean, we know it's here to stay.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of, it's a tool. Tools can be used for good. It could be used for not good. So I'm just, trying to leverage the tools out there to spread our mission. And I think, these solopreneur and nomad type people, yeah, they're on social media because often that's where their customers are. And maybe it's LinkedIn. It doesn't have to be like TikTok and
Yeah.
Instagram. It could be something more meaningful. Clubhouse can be a meaningful platform. I've already learned on that platform from people. I've already connected with important people and had collaborations. I've already had like real collaboration opportunities coming out of that. So it doesn't matter the medium to me. I think it matters about the outcome.
Yeah, I mean, it's always hard to monetize. That's always the trick, right? Is how do you monetize something? And not that everything has to lead to monetization too, right? It just engagement can indirectly lead to monetization.
Yeah.
What is something you wish someone had told you 5 years ago, or you had told yourself that you had to learn on your own, but would have made life so much easier had you known?
I think overcoming your fears in terms of using your voice. I would never have done something like this a couple of years ago. 3 years ago. Like I gave the day I
What was the fear?
I think it's a common thing. Like they say, people are more afraid of public speaking than they are death
Right.
or sharks.
Right. I've heard
Right.
that. Yeah.
Um, and I think it's not just fear of judgment. It's actually, do you know what you want to say? Like, what do you stand for? What do you believe in?
Right.
What can you say that you're convicted in and that you're okay being recorded to say? And being comfortable in your own skin,
right?
Evolving to the version of yourself that you can stand by, right? So for me, I don't think I was living a life, even though a lot of people probably thought I was, successful and happy in, living that corporate life, suit and tie. I don't think deep down I was. I don't think deep down I was successful and happy. And
yeah, it
now,
depends how you define success, right?
Yeah, but so the thing is, I was swimming upstream because I was living in a ecosystem that wasn't aligned with my true inner self, and I think now I am, and so now I am more confident about speaking my mind, my values, um, and so I think to answer your question, to sum it up, what lesson that I wish I knew before on this topic about for myself is like you got to figure out what you care about, what you want, uh, and what you truly want. And then it'll all sort of take care of itself. And then, I just think there's so many different types of fears and there's different layers of that fear. And I think just hacking away at just letting go, like whatever you're afraid of, probably you should do more of. Not always. I mean, there's some crazy stuff, but I'm talking about most of the time. So I'm trying to say yes to more things. I'm trying to step outside my comfort zone all the time.
Sure.
And grow into, I often think about a few people out there that I aspire, that I look up to, and I try to reverse engineer. How do they get there? And
right.
I like what do they do? How do they spend their time? And then follow that.
What is one person that you really look up to?
So I actually get more inspired by like what I call the everyday heroes more than the celebrity type.
I understand.
Because it's more attainable. It's more, you feel like, oh, well, if that person can do it, then maybe I can do it too, kind of
Sure.
thing. There's a couple. I mean, so one person that comes to mind is a guy named Duncan. I wonder if we'll see this. He leads a charity called Classroom of Hope, and he didn't always do that. He had a more of a traditional business corporate life, and then about I think 5 or 6 years ago, around my time, he had his own personal journey, and I won't speak for him, but it completely changed his life and went after a dream of helping the most underprivileged kids with education, and is doing it in a very innovative way, in a very like he's helping the environment at the same time, um, and he has a beautiful family, and he has a balance. He's a surfer. He's got a beautiful wife and a couple, two children now. So I think and he's living in Bali. So I'm like, that's a pretty admirable life.
Sure.
The person who helped trigger me to actually leave the New York life was a woman named Chrissy, who I met in the streets of New York moving her boxes, and they were falling. And I ran up and I asked her if I can give her a hand. Didn't know who she was. We talked for 15 minutes, and in those 15 minutes, she said that she just finished her first life dream of exploring 100 countries. And I said, oh, wow. So now you're going to go back to the corporate life? She said, nope. Now I'm going to send these boxes to my parents' home. I'm going abroad again. And I'm going to go after my second dream to create a social enterprise. And my mind was blown. I'm like, this woman's my age. She worked a corporate life just like me.
Right.
And I didn't know this was possible. No, I didn't know anyone who was doing anything like that. And,
Now you're doing it yourself.
I sent her a message that day and I said, hey, Chrissy, it was really great meeting you. You really inspired me. I hope our paths cross again one day. Long and behold, I went after those two dreams myself, but we weren't in touch. I randomly bumped into her in Bali 4 years later by chance, or I call serendipity. And I told her, I was like, Chrissy, I adopted your two dreams as my own. You really inspired me to change my life. Thank you so much. And she looked at me and said, like, who are you again?
I was totally wrong about everything I told you, actually. I had it all wrong, Tarek.
Yeah.
How can people find out more about you and get involved?
Yeah, please reach out to me if I can help you with anything. You can find me on social, on Clubhouse. My social Instagram and Clubhouse is tarek.world. You can look me up on LinkedIn. I'm sure I'll have my name somewhere. Just look me up on LinkedIn. And then Nomads Giving Back. Just search that. We have a website. We have social media. We have Nomads Skillshare. Just type those things and you'll find me easily.
I'm pretty sure if you go to Webster Dictionary and you look up Nomad, actually your picture is.
Do you know?
Is there?
I don't know if you know this, but my name Tarek literally means nomad.
In what language?
In Arabic.
Wow.
It's one of the meanings, but I did not know that until 2 years ago.
Well,
I just found that out 2 or 3 years ago.
That's pretty amazing.
And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. It was destined. I had no choice.
Yeah. Maybe your parents, I don't know, maybe that was intentional in some way.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a pleasure and an honor.
Thank you, Peter. I really admire what you're building. I think Wise Millennials is going to be an amazing community, and I can't wait to see where it evolves. And if there's anything I can do to help you or your community, please reach out. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Well, my Wise Millennial friends, Tarek has just dedicated himself to helping others, inspiring others to bridge the gap between nomads and the local community and culture. So please, learn more about him, reach out, join the Nomad movement because it's a movement, and really just get involved because he's doing some miraculous things. So thanks, buddy.
Thanks so much, Peter.
Yeah.